Sequels are hard to do right. The first film in a series usually resolves with no loose ends. It's a storybook opening and closing. The plot moves and leads to a climax and finishes with a conclusion. The conclusion is the end of something. It isn't a loose end. This is one of the biggest reasons sequels flop, because there was never a need for a sequel. A few weeks from now, we'll go over the worst sequels of all time, mostly being sequels to films that never needed one in the first place. The Hangover. For now, let's get watching. I went to see this movie 3 times. I'm not joking. And honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing it a 4th. Anyone free this Tuesday? It takes a very special film to make me want to see it more than once on the big screen. I can say with 100% certainty, this is one of the greatest sequels to be made by mankind. It's not only the magnum opus of Spider-Man films, but the magnum opus of the animation medium as a whole. The reason why it's so incredible? This sequel was supposed to exist. That's the root of its success. The predecessor to this film was made with the intention of the sequel's existence, and you can prove that through many Easter eggs planted in the first film to tease the sequel and the overarching plot to be explored. A sequel is meant to work with, go hand in hand with its precursor. When a sequel is intended to exist, it will be made with care and devotion. If a sequel is planned throughout the development of the first, 9 times out of 10, you will have a stunning outcome. This sequel does what it's supposed to. It expands the world, it expands the characters' relationships, it builds on a deeper plot, and above all, gives us more of what we loved about the first. I could spend an hour talking about this movie, but we have some really great sequels to get to. 10 out of 10, let's go watch a horror movie. Terminator is a classic. We've all either seen it or at least heard of it. It's no big secret that T2 is one of the few films in history to supersede the original.
I'm Captain Obvious.
The improved VFX allowed the addition of much more futuristic abilities the Terminator could have. The series was so impressive because of how real the Terminators looked back then. With today's standards of technology, the old Terminators look like rubber and tinfoil, but back then they were the stuff of nightmares. T2 changed the formula and beat Terminator 1 in its overall plot, humor, and action. It goes for much more of a fun action flick rather than a slasher, which I feel worked to its advantage. The first film was pretty straightforward, while this film gives us one of the greatest misdirects in cinema history. The revelation of the original Terminator actually going back in time to save John Connor instead of hunting down his mother is just next level. Just talking about it gets me excited. It's such an incredible concept for a sequel. This kind of project is why I love movies. It has mystery, action, humor, misdirects, good emotional weight, and a well-executed villain.
Get down.
While this sequel is 100% one of the top 10 sequels of all time, it isn't exactly the greatest in my eyes. So 9 out of 10, let's watch something completely different. This film might seem like a bit of an odd placement. So far, this list has been crazy action and adventure movies. But action isn't the only genre with great sequels. If I hear a single person out there saying Toy Story 2 isn't a good movie, or it's just a kid's movie, or it's literally just a movie about toys, sorry, I got a little violent there. I need to dial it back. Toy Story is one of the greatest animated films of all time. It recaptures the feeling of being a kid again. It's also one of the most unique ideas I've ever heard for a movie. The sequel takes the lighthearted, fun adventure of the first and just absolutely obliterates your emotions.
Everything was beautiful. Every hour spent together lives within my heart. And when she was sad, I was there to dry her tears. And when she was happy, so was I.
My brother explained the movie best.
This song will bring you home and then remind you that you'll never be a child again.
Not only does this film bring you back to the nostalgic days of your youth and make your heart float as if weightless in space, it also crushes your heart, reminding you that your childhood will never happen again. The story does a great job of bringing new likable characters to the screen that we can relate to. These characters expand the world as we get to see new stories and points of view. There will never be a movie just like this ever again. 11 out of 10. Let's go watch something dark. Batman Begins was one of the most mediocre movies I have ever seen. Thank goodness the sequel did better. Once again, just like T2, The Dark Knight supersedes the original by far. The biggest reason for this film's success? The Joker. This portrayal of the Joker is one of the greatest I've ever seen. The Joker in this movie is evil, twisted, manipulated, terrifying, and just straight up dangerous. It's because of this that the movie now has stakes. It's very hard for action movies, especially like superhero movies, to make the audience worried, even though that's the objective with these kinds of movies. One of the few other action movies to do this was Avengers Infinity War. Thanos' intellect and power were real obstacles that our heroes had to face. Having Thanos win in the end had weight.
What did it cost?
Everything.
The Joker in this film is a mirror of real-life terrorism, which is why he works as a villain.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Because I'm so freaking terrified of this guy. I'm rooting for the Batman to win more than ever. And when the Joker continually beats him over and over, it makes the audience sweat a little bit, thinking the Joker may actually win. In many ways, he does. The overall plot of this movie is gripping yet not convoluted. Having Batman's girlfriend die in the middle added another layer of stakes for his victory. And as the movie goes, it pulls us in more and more, as if we're getting closer and closer to falling out of our seats. Although in terms of the overall story, it is pretty basic. It wasn't exactly groundbreaking for superhero movies, and it's not the most compelling superhero movie you'll ever see. However, it nails the idea of a dark superhero movie. 9 out of 10. Do you disagree with my list? Tell me below, let's get a debate going. In a few weeks, we'll be going over the 5 worst sequels of all time. When it's up, the video will show up on screen now. Go watch it if it's out. Get ready for some of the most infuriating sequels of all time. Till then, have an adequate day, go outside, and touch some grass.